Team, how you doing? If you joined me for the quarter pipe bash the other day with the Rival MT10, then you know that I had to replace the shock tower and the rear left suspension arm. So today we're gonna walk through this little journey and replace those two parts. Let's do it. So team, looking at it from the top, we're gonna wanna get at this pin that's holding the suspension arm in place, and I've never done this before, so I'm gonna try to remove the wheelie bar. There's two hexes that are inside here, so you're gonna need a longer hex tool to remove two screws. Let's see if that gets us closer to the pin. So yep, stick the screwdriver in, you start removing the hexes, and then there's gonna be one over here as well. So I removed the two back screws. Looks like this whole wheelie bar is connected to this plate right here. So I'm gonna remove these two screws and see if that allows us to get to this blue plate to pull the pin out right here to get this suspension arm released from the side of the chassis. So I removed those two screws. Still a little bit of tension there, but you can see she's getting closer. There's these two screws tucked in there, right? That screw right there. You're gonna have to have a longer hex tool to kind of get at it, or you can probably use a short Allen wrench on the short 90-degree angle side to get at that. I got a longer hex tool, so I'm gonna remove those two screws and see if that lets us take off this whole wheelie bar mount and back plate here. So we removed those two screws. That did the trick. It looks like that. When it's together, you remove those two screws, boom, goes down like that. Now we can access that blue plate, and let's see how we can access that pin. So far, we have removed 6 screws. Don't know where my other one rolled to. Oh, it's still stuck in there. It's still in there right there. So remove 6 screws to get to the pins to remove the rear suspension arm. These pins have like covers on them. I tried to pry them off with this kind of tool here. I'm gonna try to remove this screw and see if this whole plate just pops off. Screw, kind of weird. It seems like when you replace one suspension arm, you got to take out this whole plate, which will undo this one. I might be missing something, but this is where I'm at now, and I'm just gonna be fully transparent. I'm gonna pull that blue plate out and take them both out, because that's how I'm gonna, take the rest of the suspension arm off that's busted. So now you have to remove this screw to undo the shock, and it looks like there's can't remember what they call that little piece there. It's like a tie rod almost. I think I have to undo this screw right there to get this tie rod out, and then we'll be able to take the suspension arm right off. So I removed those two screws, right? And this plate came off. So now I gotta get the shock and this little tie rod undone from the suspension arm. Not sure how I'm gonna do that. I guess we'll figure that out together. It looks like you need to pop that little nobule. You pop the little tie rod right off of there, then it pops back on, and then you can just pull and press the shock through like that. So yeah, you see this little tie rod mount right here. It was attached to that little nobule right there. You pop that off, and you just peel the shock through, and then boom, suspension arm's off. Put the new one on. One more step. Got to take out this long hex screw right here to remove the other broken part. So you're going to have a nut on the other side of this hex. I believe this is the key that came with the vehicle, but either way, if you don't, you can find a hex or some wrench, because you're going to need to have tension on this side to undo the hex. Got that little nut off. Pull that hex out. Boom. Now we're ready to put the new suspension arm on. All right, Here go the suspension arm sets and the body mount sets. Thank you, Horizon Hobby. Let's get the suspension arm on. The needle nose, clipped it back on there. Now it's time to set the pin back in to the suspension arm and reattach it. So it looks like this little blue metal plate pops off. Make sure everything's lined up. Slide that pin in, press it together, and she will be all back on nice. From here, put this metal screw back in here that held the plate secure. So now I've taken the shock and I've squeezed it and got it set in between there. It goes back on the middle hole, okay? And then we're gonna take this long screw and attach the suspension arm, put it through there. We're gonna attach the suspension arm back to the knuckle, and then we will fasten the shock up. Got that screw in. Don't forget now you gotta pop that nut. You gotta pop this nut back on there. Now that you got the screw on, okay, tighten that up. So team, don't forget to put the shock shell or the suspension arm shell protector back on as well. So those two screws. So now to complete, we're gonna put this screw back into there, this screw back into there, and then do 2 flat hexes right there. And then you'll have the finished product, and you've just completed a rear suspension arm replacement on the MT10. And there we go. Boom, all done. Clean, simple and easy. Now, onto the shock tower we busted. All right, team, time to remove the body mount that's attached to the shock tower so we can do the replacement. And I think it's these screws right here and right here that remove this body mount. So I'm gonna be removing those. Okay, remove the 2 screws. You can actually just keep them in there and that pops right off. Okay, note the height that you have the body mount at, and make sure when you put the new one in, make sure your heights match up. Okay, so we're gonna put this new one in. All right, you can see I have the screws kind of poking through right there, and I'm gonna boom attach them like that, and this new body mount will be ready to go. All right, body mount back on. Rear left suspension arm replaced, looking clean. Ready to put this body back on. So team, we just replaced the body mount we cracked from the quarter pipe bash the other day. We did the left rear suspension arm, looking clean underneath there. Put this body back on here. Team, I hope you learned something today on how to replace the rear left suspension arm on the team associated Rival MT10, along with replacing the body mount. This is Mo. Like I always say, appreciate the time. Every time, hit like, hit subscribe for more content like this.